The sponsor of today's video is Reagan Sullivan. For good, chaste, and capturing tales, go check out her books at www.reagansullivanbooks.weebly.com. Again, go to www.reagansullivanbooks.weebly.com today to get hours of gripping suspense and enthralling storytelling. Hello and welcome to Wardens of the Cross. This is the Defender. The raising of children is a highly debated topic in today's culture. The smallest details give rise to screaming matches, family feuds, and flame wars in which parenting styles are highly critiqued. It is true that there are many ways to properly raise a child, but some points must remain the same in order to successfully do so. Unbeknownst to some people and simply ignored by others, the Bible, especially the book of Proverbs, says many things upon the subject of child raising. While the book of Proverbs says many wise and truthful things, the most striking of them all is the amount of advice given to families. In this episode, we shall look at some advice the Bible provides for raising children. We shall see why raising children correctly is so important, and a few other details regarding parenting. Hopefully, after this edition, you will have a better idea of how important child raising really is, and how crucial it is to rear one's children correctly. Child raising is important for the reason that, as should be obvious, the children are going to one day be the adults. There are many who argue that children are a waste of time, or that having children ruins the futures of the parents. In the book of Psalms, chapter 127, verse 3, however, we are told that children are, quote, a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward, end of quote. We are also told in the book of Proverbs, chapter 1, verse 9, that well-behaved and properly raised children are, quote, diadems and pendants for the parents, end of quote. To think about it, this is a very true statement. Children who are properly raised shall behave well and with good morals, and it will serve as a crown upon the head of the parents. The good deeds which the children will accomplish, whether as adults or in their adolescence, shall be credited indirectly to the parents as well. It is not a pleasant thought, but sometimes children must be disciplined for clearly doing wrong, so as to learn morals and spiritual qualities. This is so that they may distinguish between right and wrong, and they can use this knowledge to bring honor to themselves, their families, and to God throughout their lives. This truly is as painful for a loving parent as it is for the child, but it is a necessary part of one's adolescence to be punished for straying off the path. In a world which believes that smacking a disrespectful child qualifies as child abuse, it would be deemed as endorsing capital murder to say that punishments are just and necessary in childhood, but it is true. Through discipline, a child will learn what is right and what is wrong. This will aid them more than any riches ever could in the course of their lives. A child who is disciplined indirectly learns about God through it. He or she will learn that there is a consequence to all of their actions, and this will help them to understand later in life the same logic in terms of God and the afterlife. Through punishments on earth, children can be brought spiritually closer to God as they develop better morals and a better understanding of right and wrong. It paves the way for their religious education, where they may more easily understand why evil people are sent to hell for their crimes. Not only does it help them in the spiritual realm, but it aids them in the physical world as well. Here are some examples. Would it be better to punish a child for letting them steal things they have no right to, or simply cave in and let them keep doing it until they grow up and think they are entitled to everything? Would it be better to discipline a child for backtalking, or let them get away with disrespecting you so that they never go on to be able to hold a job due to fighting with their boss, or wind up in prison for showing a lack of respect for authority? Would it be better to spank a child for striking his parents, or just let him go on to abuse his faithful wife and children? To add context to these statements, we will provide an example. In the state of Indiana, there is a man who has broken all of the records for being the prisoner kept longest in solitary confinement. In his infamous career, he was a hitman, a serial killer, and a thief. He escaped prison 3 individual times in various ways. However, the root issue can be traced back to his childhood. He was abandoned by his parents and was raised by his grandparents. His grandparents refused to ever administer any sort of discipline. I'm certain they regretted this choice when he was first arrested at the age of 17 for recklessly shooting at people in a grocery store. To summarize the necessity of chastisement, it cannot be said better than it is in Proverbs chapter 22 verse 6, where we read the following, quote, "Train the young in the way they should go. Even when they are old, they will not swerve from it." End of quote. Discipline sets up boundaries for a child and gives them security. The modern view of parenting today is that children just make their own boundaries. They even take this level of insanity to a point of refusing to ever say a simple no to their offspring. This hands over all authority to a little 5-year-old tyrant who has no idea what they are doing. If it feels good, the child will do it. Maybe that's eating French fries now, but it will develop into drugs and perverted sex when the child is 15. One example of this tyrannical authority that modern children wield over cringing parents was witnessed by Regina Screebum while she was at work. A child and his mother came in, and she greeted them and began a conversation. After several moments of talk, the mother realized she had come to the wrong address. The child turned and began to scream at her. When Regina tried to defuse the situation, he turned and began to scream at her, throwing a water bottle at her head in the process. He then shrieked that he hated his parents and that he wanted to kill them before the mother, on the verge of tears, walked out with the 10-year-old tyrant. While the proof for punishing children continues to build, there are still some who would ask if it is godly to do so. To see if our Lord does truly approve of the disciplining of wayward children, we shall go directly to the Bible, written by his inspiration, to see what it says about the whole topic. We are shown throughout the Bible and Holy Scriptures that God does indeed condone the disciplining of insubordinate children. When scanning the pages of the book of Proverbs, it takes one about 5 seconds to see our Lord prescribing punishments on wayward children. We can see that it says in chapter 29 verse 17 that if one disciplines their children, they will, quote, "give you rest and give delight to your heart," end of quote. We are also told that parents should, quote, "not withhold discipline from a child. If you strike him with a rod, he will not die. If you strike him with the rod, you will save his soul from Sheol," end of quote. This, of course, is so that they learn the right road before they are adults and damn themselves through poor spiritual and life choices. God is so adamant about justifying the punishment of disobedient children that we are told that those who do not issue physical discipline hate their own offspring, as is seen in Proverbs chapter 13 verse 24. However, it is not just in the Old Testament that we see this condoning. We also see in the book of Ephesians chapter 6 verse 4 the Lord telling parents to raise children in, quote, "the discipline and instruction of the Lord," end of quote. This clearly proves from the Old and New Testaments that the chastisement of one's children is truly encouraged by God. As well as this, if one thinks that disciplining a child through the rapid application of a cooking spoon to the behind is a cruel punishment, the rod appears to be our Lord's choice instrument on wayward children. So, yeah, I'll take the wooden spoon, thank you very much. The punishment of children through scolding or spankings is condoned by God. It is not just the right of parents to do so, but it is also their duty towards the child for the betterment of society and their offspring's spiritual well-being. There is clearly a fine line between abuse and punishment, but punishment is a necessity which, if not used, will lead to many issues in the adult life of the child. If it were not good and just to do so, our Lord would not permit or entrust parents to do so. This alone is proof that it is acceptable, even if one is blind to the many benefits it gives to their child in this world, and the betterment of their spiritual growth, attachment, and dedication to God.